Doom has always been a little ridiculous. Ever since the original game in 1993, the series has always kept up a tongue-in-cheek attitude, and this extends into Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Some fans have been critical of the new Doom games making a supposed mockery out of classic Doom with its Saturday morning cartoon tone, and while I understand their sentiments, I just can't agree. When it was initially released, I think that Doom was intended to be both atmospheric and over the top, not one or the other. In 1993, no one had seen anything like Doom before, and the game probably freaked many children and teenagers out when they first played it. The lighting and monster placement was unparalleled at the time, but that's the key term in all of this, at the time. Even if Doom scared players back then, Doom wouldn't have scared players nowadays, and that's why Doom 2016 went for a more self-aware approach. That's not to say that Doom from the start was intended to be this horror experience, because it just wasn't. Doom was an action game first and foremost, and although I don't believe it was being sarcastic like Wolfenstein, the game had a sense of humor for sure. The intermission screens were silly, there were chainsaws available on Mars, you have to kill Commander Keen to finish the secret level in Doom 2, and Doom Guy's ultimate goal is to avenge his pet rabbits. Those are all ridiculous ideas, and whether you want to frame Doom as a horror experience or not, there has always been humor interjected into the Doom franchise. If you play Doom 3, which is the closest we've gotten to a true horror game, there are Super Turkey Puncher arcade machines and the Martian Buddy weapon crates. Part of id Software's charm, to me at least, is how they don't take their game's tone that seriously, and how they don't adhere to a serious narrative most of the time. When fans point to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal and say that they go too far with the silly tone, I have to disagree. It's self-aware for sure, but Doom is the most pliable game franchise to work with. Doom is about fighting demons with a shotgun, and nothing else. If it has demons and guns, then it's a Doom game. That is why we've had so many incarnations of Doom over the years. We have Classic Doom, which is very different to Doom 3, which is again very different to something like Doom Eternal. These games might have different tones and approaches to combat, but they are all Doom at the end of the day. That being said, I think that Doom Eternal is the closest we've gotten to recapturing the magic of classic Doom, and I owe a lot of that to the tone it sets. Classic Doom was atmospheric at the time, but it was also intentionally nonsense. Doom Eternal's story is inherently ridiculous, but it's not like the characters or the world itself is taking the game's events lightly. The audience can sit back and have fun with it, but the story is taken seriously by the people in-universe, and that's what matters. The cosmetic skins in Doom Eternal, like the hipster Archvile or Elvis Mancubus, have gotten some criticism as well, and I don't see why. Yes, they are inspired by memes and current internet culture, but they're just goofy skins that you don't even need to sink the time into getting. While the story is self-aware and over the top, it's not like the Doomslayer knows he's in a video game or anything, so no, I don't think Doom Eternal is making a mockery out of a franchise. id Software's current mantra is, if it's awesome and makes sense to put in the game, we're putting it in the game. But that's always kind of been id Software's MO. Why else would they put a chainsaw in Doom or implement a death cam in Wolfenstein 3D? Because it's fun and silly and enjoyable, and that's what counts. For Doom 2016, the game features this awesome Black Sabbath type voice that is heard throughout the campaign. Hugo Martin has even said that this voice is very similar to something you'd hear from a Black Sabbath album. This falls in line with what id Software were inspired by when making Doom: Pantera, Iron Maiden, and other metal bands. Tonally, I feel like Doom Eternal is more Saturday morning cartoon, while 1993's Doom is like Aliens with goofy undertones. Doom Eternal needs to evolve the franchise as well, which it has wonderfully. I like to equate the Doom series to Star Wars, because I think the comparison is apt. When Star Wars is at its best, it's taking inspiration from spaghetti westerns, samurai movies, and material that isn't Star Wars. That's how A New Hope was made in the first place, because George Lucas was inspired by many forms of fiction and he wanted to roll them all into one. When Doom is at its best, it is when it's taking ideas from other media and not necessarily Doom itself. You can tell that Doom has some Evil Dead, The Thing, They Live, He-Man, and the Last Boy Scouts DNA in there, and it mixes them all into one 80s and 90s fueled package. Of course, Doom Eternal needs to also take cues from classic Doom, but I appreciate how the story team gets their inspiration from other media as well. Another aspect about Doom Eternal that I think works is how they broke the shackles of what a Doom game can do. They are attempting to form a Doom universe, and they let loose with the plot in exchange for new and exciting locations to visit and unique gameplay moments to experience. Back to the main point of this video. Has Doom become a joke, or rather, has Doom Eternal taken things too far? Well, I think there needed to be 100% serious source material in order for Doom Eternal to take things too far. The original Doom was not this stone-faced game that took itself completely seriously, and even if it was, it's no longer that anymore. Nobody thinks that Doom is scary in this current age, so the only step to go from that is to embrace the goofiness like id Software has. That being said, there has always been a layer of cheese with Doom, almost as if you're watching an 80s comedy horror movie, and the new games have geared into that more. I'm not saying that you can't make a serious Doom game. I mean, Doom 3 is the closest we've gotten to that, but even that had some comic elements to it. That being said, it is possible to make Doom serious because the framework of Doom is demons and shotguns, and you can turn that into anything, but one, I think that's not really entertaining, and two, Doom is much more memorable with cheese. With Doom Eternal expanding the scope of its world and everything, I feel like id Software are doing a solid job at continuing the Doom legacy. I feel like we're all laughing and cheering alongside Doom Eternal and not at it, which I think is some older fans' concern. Regardless, Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 both aren't the first time that the monsters or Doomguy were presented in this larger-than-life way. In Map 20, Gotcha of Doom 2, the Cyber Demon and Spider Mastermind are literally put on pedestals as they fight it out. Doomguy was presented in Doom 64 as this ultimate badass when he decides to stay in hell to clean up all of the demons. I mean, sure, Doom 2016 and beyond took these elements and ran with them, depicting the Doomslayer as a demigod, but I think it ultimately works. Going back to the Metal album comparison, the Slayer feels like someone Vincent Price would monologue about on an Iron Maiden CD, akin to Number of the Beast. That's even why the Slayer testaments exist in Doom 2016, and it's great stuff. Even though the gameplay is the main reason why I love Doom and 90s shooters in general, I think the personality of these games is the cherry on top. The way that id Software lets the player have fun and gives them outlandish intermission screens to read and Commander Keens to kill is why I love Doom. It's the same reason why I love franchises like Dragon Ball so much. There is a goofy side to Dragon Ball, and series creator Akira Toriyama made a lot of the story up as he went along, which gives the manga an endearing side to it. The same exact thing goes with movies that have practical effects, as they invite you into the filmmaking process and have a charm about them that makes you entertained. Doom Eternal also has a charm, not only because of its frantic gunplay, but also due to the humor and personality id Software injected into it. This has been carried across each of the Doom games since, and Doom Eternal is doing a great job living up to the family name with its over-the-top plots and self-aware humor. Thanks for watching.